Hey, how's it going, Adam? How are you?
Hey, Graham, I'm good. How are you?
Doing awesome. Doing awesome. My first
Good.
question for you being you're going to be defending the NXT Championship this coming Sunday against Velveteen Dream, of course, one final time at TakeOver. But you actually already beat him about a month ago on NXT. So is your preparation the same going into Sunday, knowing what worked for you the first time?
So, yes and no. Of course, there's a big part of me that knows that I know Velveteen Dream's game. I know what he's capable of. I know his strengths, his weaknesses, and things like that. And I know that in a one-on-one wrestling match, I got this down. I'm confident, but considering this matchup is a little bit different, that obviously throws a wrench into things. Which, I've said this before. This is a classic example of them trying to make sure I lose the NXT Championship as soon as possible, but that's not going to happen. I'm very, very confident that Velveteen Dream is a guy that I'm capable of beating. He has been a difficult opponent for me, but I'm confident that, again, TakeOver in your house, Adam Cole versus Velveteen Dream. This will be the last time the Velveteen Dream ever challenges for my NXT Championship ever again, and I'm feeling good.
How weird was it for you to not be hearing, fans chanting Adam Cole Baby and the signature boom and everything else whenever you made your entrance before? I mean, obviously recently the NXT stars started appearing in the audience, but before that, how weird was that for you to not have that sort of reaction when you come out?
Oh, it's definitely strange. But at the same time, it's not as strange as I think people imagined. Because for those of you who don't know, I've actually been doing the Adam Cole Bebe since like 2009 or 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And really, the first 5 or 6 years that I did it, nobody did it with me. That was just something that I did. It was part of my shtick. It was part of who Adam Cole was. So I know what that feels like already to do it. And no one reacting or yelling it along with me. I mean, normally it was followed up with boos or things like that, which made it a little bit easier. But definitely very strange to not hear the crowd say boom or Adam Cole Bebe. And I can't wait. Whenever that time is, I can't wait to come back and have that happen again.
Well, to kind of go back to when you first won the NXT Championship, almost exactly 1 year ago, I spoke to Montez Ford last week about how special of a night TakeOver 25 was, and for your match specifically, I mean, having been there myself, my buddy and I always kind of joke about how when you hit the last shot and you won the championship, that he said that's the loudest he's ever counted 1, 2, 3 in his entire life. It was just an incredible reaction. Where does that match with Johnny Gargano kind of rank among your favorite title matches to date, and is it the greatest that you've had, up to this point?
So that's really, really tough to say as far as what my favorite or I think my greatest championship defense was.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you, that one is certainly up there. When I think back to that night, I mean, it was such a combination of things because, again, I had just wrestled Johnny Gargano a few months prior, WrestleMania weekend, where he beat me and he became the new NXT champion.
Mm-hmm.
So not only did I have that looming over my head, but again, the pressure of having a rematch when the first match was loved as much as it was is very challenging. And that puts a lot of pressure on you. So I knew going in to TakeOver 25 that I had a lot to prove and certainly had a lot to live up to. But fortunately, again, that night was special in some ways, and not just because that's the night I won the championship, but I view that as liking it even more than the first match that we had.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that one was very, very special in its own right. And it's certainly up there when it comes to my favorite NXT title defenses. But if I had to pick a favorite, I don't know if this is what you're asking as well as far as my favorite championship defense.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say strictly because of the month and the positioning and where I was, I think the successful title defense against Pete Dunne at Survivor Series is also up there. I hold that one, and the night that I won the championship is very special. Not only because I got to wrestle at Survivor Series, and it was the first time the NXT Championship was defended, but just the crazy month that I and so many other people had. And thinking that less than 24 hours before, I went through a 50-minute war inside War Games. I was thrown off the top of the cage, and just the battered, beaten, bruised, but still went out still had a tough match, and still walked away as the NXT champion. I think that one is up there too, as far as being very special as far as title defenses go.
And you mentioned the month of November. You mentioned that match with Pete Dunne at Survivor Series. I think when people kind of think about your best matches as NXT champion, they tend to forget about that Daniel Bryan match from the main event of SmackDown a couple weeks before. That was what kicked off Survivor Series season, and how great of a match that was, beating Daniel Bryan clean as a sheet, main event of the show. Again, with that matchup, was it one of those matches that also is kind of special to you because how it kind of came together on a whim earlier that day?
Absolutely. Again, this is a big reason that I think it's so hard for me to pick a favorite, because so many are so special, especially when you talk about it. First and foremost, Daniel Bryan was a guy, when I was a fan in high school, he was a guy I idolized. I remember the first time watching him and being so captivated by him. I thought he really is the best wrestler in the entire world. I was, again, so captivated by his matches and what he brought to the table. But on the independent scene, as he was leaving and I was kind of entering, I never had the chance to wrestle him before. So that main event, last minute, just got there, throwing your boots on the second you get their match, that I had with Daniel Bryan was the first time we had ever faced each other in any capacity. So that was very special to me. And then, of course, yes, the circumstance of the last minute and getting a phone call and rushing around to pack my bag and get on a plane super last minute, and just rushing as fast as we could to get to the building. And then next thing you know, I'm out in the ring defending the NXT title against Daniel Bryan. It was crazy. It was so crazy. And then fortunately, again, a lot of people really liked that match. A lot of people really enjoyed it. And Daniel Bryan, without question, is one of the absolute best pro wrestlers I've ever stepped into the ring with. So I'm very happy I beat him.
And when you talk about like great wrestling matches, a lot of your title defenses rank up there, and like you said, it's kind of hard to pick just one. But kind of on the same subject there, with the next weekend being Backlash, Edge Orton being touted as the greatest wrestling match up to this point. What are your thoughts on Edge versus Orton, as well as what makes a truly classic match in your opinion?
Well, first and foremost, as far as what makes a truly classic match, I mean, there's so many things that play into this. First of all, the unbelievable story leading up into the match is so important. How emotionally invested the audience is before the match even begins. How emotionally invested they are watching the match. Obviously, we don't have a bunch of fans in the audience right now, so hopefully them being invested as they're sitting on their couch or wherever they are watching the event. As far as Edge and Randy Orton are concerned, my God, they're two of the absolute greatest of all time. They are. I mean, the matches that Edge has had have been unbelievable. The matches that Randy Orton has had will be unbelievable. But the greatest wrestling match ever, I mean, when you think about the greatest wrestling matches ever, I personally think you think of Adam Cole and the amazing NXT title defenses that I've had, and the many more NXT Championship defenses I'm going to have. I mean, when we talk about greatest wrestling matches ever, I mean, look no further than yours truly, my man.
Well, I mean, what's very special about your title reign is that it's very rare nowadays that we get such an awesome, not just one, not two, but three, like a trilogy of matches that you had with Johnny last summer in New York, you had it in Bridgeport at 25, and then in Toronto in August last year. So with that matchup, where does that matchup kind of rank among the others? I know, again, it's very tough considering how great some of the other matches are, but with it being a three stages of hell match, essentially, how special is that match to you in the main event of that takeover?
Yeah, I was very proud of that one as well, because I do think in the first two, I think myself and Johnny, we showed that, bell to bell, straight up wrestling match, we can have a great one. And I think we proved that, WrestleMania weekend and then at TakeOver 25. So this one was so much different. Of course, we started with the wrestling match, but then it turned into a street fight. Then it turned into this crazy cage match with weapons all over the cage. It was wild. So, yes, I'm very proud of that one as a way to close out the Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano feud, just because, again, coming off of two matches that people really enjoyed, two matches that I really enjoyed, and we knew in this case, let's make this one as different as crazy, as wild as we possibly can to really put a stamp on this trilogy of matches. And I remember laying there when that match was done and being very proud of the matches I had with Johnny, and also being very sore.
And people, they think about those takeover matches as NXT champion that you've had over the last year with Johnny, with Ciampa, with, Survivor Series with Pete Dunne. But again, for me, it's the television matches like the Daniel Bryan match or even the Matt Riddle match from the October 2nd edition of NXT that are truly, truly special. And not with that match, it's a takeover level match happening on NXT TV. Of course, given the circumstances, NXT going head to head that night with competition. Where does that match rank for you, and with it being kind of a takeover level match on NXT, not only on NXT, but kicking off the show that night?
Yeah, that's another one. Again, and I don't mean to sound like a broken record, so I apologize, but that one was incredibly special. And again, a lot of it was the stuff surrounding the specialness of that night. I mean, that was the first point. It wasn't the first point that NXT was on USA, but it was the first time we were live 2 hours, on USA. And like you said, we were going head to head, and we were opening the show with this NXT title match. So again, pressure is high, really, really high. But fortunately, I look at a guy like Matt Riddle, and I mean this, again, don't mean to sound like a broken record, but he truly is one of the best. I mean, the guy and his skill set and his ability, he's captivating. He's just an unbelievable pro wrestler. So, I knew we had a ton to prove. I knew that a lot of eyes were going to be on us. And fortunately, the NXT crowd that night was ready to go. They were ready to chant. They were ready to have a good time. And again, I was more motivated than ever to just have a really, really great wrestling match. And at that time as well, I mean, I was dealing with my broken wrist at the time too. There were so many different factors that were going on, but so much of those few months that had kind of happened so quickly. It was almost like you didn't have time to truly be stressed. You were just so worked up in the moment and what was happening before you. But I'm very, very proud. I feel like that showcased what the NXT Championship is all about to a television audience, to the best of our ability. And very proud of that title defense.
And it was just 2 months later that you faced Finn Balor on NXT TV as well. And it's rare nowadays that not only that you have the reign that you have had with the great matches and just over a year long, but that you not only get to just, beat their record, but beat the person who previously held the record as the longest reigning NXT champion of all time, having beaten him 6 months ago. And again, same type of situation, kicking off the show that night. Such a great show. Rhea and Shayna main eventing that evening. Again, your thoughts on the Finn Balor match from back in December for the NXT Championship?
Yeah, again, why that one was special is at that point, I was in pretty deep with my NXT Championship run, and I was really solidifying myself as one of the best NXT champions of all time. But the one looming thing was the longest reigning NXT champion of all time, Finn Balor, who had recently come back to NXT. So a lot of people had kind of fantasized about us challenging each other with the NXT title on the line. So that one was really special. It was special also because I'd only faced Finn Balor one time before, and that was actually in his farewell match on the Independents to go to NXT. And that was the one time we had faced each other. He won that match as well. So fast forward a bunch of years later, and here we are, again on NXT television, much bigger stage, with the NXT title on the line. It was really cool. Again, I look at Finn Balor as absolutely one of the greatest NXT champions of all time. So it was really important to me to not only have a good match with Finn Balor, but to walk away still the NXT champion to prove that, again, I am what I say I am, and that's the greatest. So very, very special.
And finally, the Ciampa match from TakeOver a couple of months ago, another great NXT all-time champion, and now it main evented the show. And not only that, but it was like a 4 or 5 month long story with you guys kicking it off on October, drawing it out, delivering in the main event of TakeOver Portland. Your thoughts on how important a storytelling is to your feuds, matches, and how great that match was for you as NXT champion?
Well, yeah, as far as storytelling goes, it's literally everything. There are some situations where maybe you don't have the time, or maybe it's not the situation that is brought to the table, where the story that you actually have to tell is within that 15, 20, 25 minutes in the ring. But if you have the ability to tell the story over months and an extended period of time, and then also tell your story in the ring, there's nothing better. when you think about all the greatest, most exciting, most dramatic and emotional wrestling matches, so many of these stories have been built for years. I mean, for God's sakes, one example I always bring up is WrestleMania 25 and Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker. There was an immediate build to that match leading into their classic encounter, but another reason that one was so special is really that one had started building years ago. Like years and years and years, long before they actually started the current day feud leading into WrestleMania 25. So there was almost this story there just waiting to be told. And when they told it, they had the people. They completely had the people, and that's why it was special. So with Tommaso, it was a similar situation in the sense of it was supposed to be Ciampa and Gargano WrestleMania weekend. Then it ended up being me, and Johnny was able to beat me. And Tommaso got to come on stage and celebrate with Johnny. Then I took it away from Johnny, and I beat Johnny, and I beat everybody. I beat everybody except Ciampa. And then Ciampa comes back from neck surgery, and he wants Goldie back, and it's the championship that he never lost. It's just, I get excited talking about it. It's just exhilarating. So then to go and have the match I had with him, and finally close that chapter of the Gargano-Ciampa saga, as far as Adam Cole is concerned, was awesome. Was really, really cool. I think a lot of people thought he was going to walk away as champion that night. Didn't happen, because again, I'm the greatest NXT champion of all time. But very, very proud of that match as well. Very, very cool.
And you and Velveteen have had a similar story. Looking forward to that match being a classic as well on Sunday. Adam, this has been awesome. Thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Pleasure talking to you.